Greetings, my fellow adventurers. It's Alara. Welcome back to our cozy sanctuary, where the whispers of the forest and the power of ancient magic come alive in tales of courage, nature, and destiny. Tonight, we delve into the mystical world of the druids, where sacred groves hold secrets older than time, and the balance of life and magic rests in the hands of a chosen few. So, find your most comfortable spot. Let the magic of the grove stir your imagination, and prepare to journey into a tale of ancient oaths, hidden truths, and the fight to restore balance to a fragile world. Let me know in the comments where you're from, and which mythical tales you'd love to hear next. Let's begin. The Stag's Oath. The forest of Twirniach had always been a place of reverence and mystery, its ancient trees standing like silent sentinels over a land steeped in Celtic lore. In its heart lay the sacred grove, a circle of oak trees said to be as old as the first breath of the wind. It was here that Áine, a young druid sworn to protect the balance of nature, stood on the brink of a journey she did not yet understand. Áine knelt at the base of the great oak, her hands pressed into the mossy ground. Her stag, Éochaid, watched her from the grove's edge, his silver antlers gleaming in the shafts of moonlight, piercing through the dense canopy above. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and ancient magic. "Why do they call me now, Éochaid?" Áine whispered, her voice trembling. The stag snorted softly, pawing the ground with one great hoof. His dark eyes filled with a wisdom she could not fathom. Áine's heart raced as the familiar rustle of wind through leaves became a whisper. A voice carried on the breeze, faint but insistent. "Child of the oak, the balance falters," the voice said, low and melodic, as though the trees themselves were speaking. "The Morrigan stirs, and shadows creep where light once reigned. The ancient bond is breaking." Áine shivered, her connection to the grove making the warning visceral. The sacred grove was the heart of the land's balance, a place where druids communed with the spirits of the earth and sky. If its harmony was disturbed, the consequences would ripple far beyond the forest. Áine rose to her feet as the whispers faded, her thoughts heavy with unease. Before she could collect herself, the distant sound of hoofbeats broke the forest's stillness. A rider approached, their silhouette becoming clearer as they emerged from the mist-shrouded path leading into the grove. The rider dismounted, pulling back their hood to reveal a weathered face framed by graying hair. It was Fionn, one of the elder druids, his presence both reassuring and foreboding. "Áine," he said, his voice grave. "You felt it too, didn't you?" She nodded. "The balance is shifting. The grove speaks of shadows and broken bonds." Fionn sighed, his hand resting on the hilt of the iron-tipped staff he carried. "It is worse than we feared. The Morrigan's shrine in the eastern hills has grown silent. The crows no longer carry her omens, and the rivers near her altar run black." Áine's stomach twisted at the mention of the Morrigan, the goddess of fate, war, and sovereignty. Though she was a figure of both reverence and fear, her silence was unnatural. It was said that when the Morrigan withdrew her voice, it was a harbinger of chaos. "What can I do?" Áine asked, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. Fionn placed a hand on her shoulder. You must go to the shrine. The Morrigan's absence is not mere neglect. It is a sign of interference. Something has stolen her voice, and if it is not restored, the lands will wither. As dawn broke, Áine prepared for her journey, gathering herbs, charms, and the ritual dagger she used to carve sacred symbols into the earth. Eokid followed her every movement, his silent presence a source of comfort. Before leaving, she placed her hand on the great oak, drawing strength from its ancient roots. Guard the grove, she whispered. The tree creaked softly in response, a sound she chose to take as assent. The path to the eastern hills was treacherous, winding through dense thickets and over jagged stones. The air grew colder as she ascended, the sunlight dimming as though veiled by unseen hands. Along the way, she encountered signs of corruption, plants withering unnaturally, streams running sluggish and dark, and the carcass of a fox, its body marked by blackened veins. This isn't decay, she murmured to Eokid. It's something far worse. The stag snorted, lowering his head to inspect the fox. Áine knelt beside him, her fingers brushing the animal's fur. A pulse of energy coursed through her, and a vision struck her mind like lightning. She stood in a vast field, the sky roiling with storm clouds. In the distance, a dark figure loomed, draped in shadows and crowned with crows. The Morrigan. Her presence was overwhelming, her eyes burning with an intensity that pierced Áine's soul. You must reclaim what is lost, the goddess said, her voice like thunder. But beware, for betrayal hides among the faithful. The vision shattered, and Áine gasped, her hands gripping the cold ground as she returned to the present. Eokid nudged her shoulder, his concern evident. The Morrigan spoke to me, Áine said, her voice trembling. Something has been taken from her, and she warned of betrayal. The weight of the goddess's words pressed heavily on her. If betrayal had struck even the divine, then no one, not even the druids, could be trusted without question. The eastern hills were barren compared to the verdant forest Áine had left behind. The Morrigan's shrine stood at the summit of the tallest hill, a ring of black stones encircling an altar, carved with symbols of war and fate. But the shrine was not as it should have been. The stones were cracked, their once glowing symbols now darkened. Crows lay lifeless around the altar, their wings spread as though in a final act of defiance. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and something more, something foul and unnatural. Áine approached cautiously, Eokid staying close at her side. She knelt before the altar, placing her hands on the cold stone. As she whispered an incantation, a faint glow began to emanate from the carvings, and a voice, not the Morrigan's, but something darker, echoed through the shrine. You are too late, child of the grove. The ground beneath her trembled, and shadows coalesced around the altar, forming into a figure that bore no allegiance to the gods. Its eyes gleamed with malice, and its voice was a chilling whisper. The balance is already broken. Áine stood, her hands tightening around her staff. Eokid lowered his antlers, ready to charge. This is only the beginning, Áine said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her heart. The grove will not fall so easily. The shrine's silence was suffocating as Áine stepped back from the altar, her staff trembling in her hand. The shadowy figure's final words lingered like a bitter aftertaste in the air. Betrayal hides among the faithful. Eochad nudged her shoulder with his silver antlers, grounding her. Áine's breath came in short gasps as she tried to process what she had just encountered. Her connection to the sacred grove had always felt like an unshakable constant, a bond unbroken by doubt or fear. But now, cracks had begun to show, and doubt crept in like a cold wind through the trees. "We need answers," she whispered, turning to her stag. Eochid snorted in agreement, pawing at the ground as though urging her to move. If what the shadow said is true, then someone, one of us, is working against the balance. They began their descent from the shrine, the dying light of dusk, casting long shadows across the barren hills. The sacred grove greeted Áine with an air of unease. The whispers of the trees were faint and erratic, their usual harmonious song replaced by fragmented murmurs. The great oak loomed at the heart of the grove, its ancient branches stretching skyward like gnarled fingers. Áine approached it with trepidation, pressing her hand to the rough bark. "Great oak," she whispered, closing her eyes. "Something threatens the balance. The Morrigan's silence, the shadows, it all points to betrayal. Show me the truth." The tree's response was subtle, but unmistakable. A faint pulse of energy coursed through her hand, and for a fleeting moment she saw flashes of visions. The altar darkened by shadow, a figure cloaked in mist, and the unmistakable shape of druidic tools, marked with runes of corruption. Áine gasped, pulling her hand away. The visions were incomplete, but the message was clear. Someone within the grove was tampering with sacred forces. "Fionn must know," she said aloud, turning toward the elder druid's usual place near the grove's edge. Fionn's expression darkened as Áine relayed the events at the shrine. His weathered face, usually calm and composed, was lined with concern as he listened. "Shadows at the shrine, and whispers of betrayal," he muttered, rubbing his chin. "This aligns with what I feared, but could not prove." Áine's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Fionn hesitated before answering. "For weeks now, I've felt disruptions in the grove. Rituals that once brought harmony seem muted. Tools have gone missing. Daggers, amulets, even offerings left at the altar. I thought it might be carelessness, but now..." He trailed off, his gaze distant. "Do you suspect someone?" Áine pressed. Fionn's eyes met hers, his expression unreadable. "I do not wish to speak without proof, but if the shadow's warning holds weight, we must tread carefully. Trust no one completely, not even me." Áine stiffened. The idea of doubting the elder druid, someone she had looked up to for guidance, felt wrong. But the grove's balance was at stake, and she could not ignore the Morrigan's warning. Determined to act, Áine spent the next morning scouring the grove for signs of corruption. Eochid followed her closely, his presence a constant reminder of her duty. Near a secluded part of the grove, where the younger druids often practiced their spells, Áine found her first clue, in a patch of earth that should have been lush with moss and ferns. There was a circle of scorched ground. At its center lay a faint rune, jagged and unfamiliar. "This isn't one of ours," Áine murmured, kneeling to inspect the rune. Its edges were sharp, and the magic it radiated was cold and invasive. Éochaid sniffed at the ground before lifting his head, his ears swiveling. A faint rustling reached Áine's ears, and she turned just in time to catch a glimpse of movement through the trees. "Someone's watching us," she whispered, gripping her staff tightly. The rustling grew fainter, but Éochaid surged forward, his antlers gleaming as he led the way. Áine followed, her heart pounding as they pursued the figure deeper into the forest. The trail ended at a hidden alcove nestled among the roots of an ancient yew tree. Inside, Áine found a collection of items strewn haphazardly: ceremonial daggers, pouches of herbs, and amulets carved with crude, corrupted symbols. Her stomach twisted as she recognized one of the daggers. It was Fion's, its blade etched with the elder druid's distinctive markings. Why would his tools be here? She wondered aloud. Éochaid pawed at the ground, his gaze fixed on the alcove's entrance as though expecting someone to return. Áine's thoughts raced. If Fion was innocent, then someone had gone to great lengths to implicate him. But who? As Áine returned to the grove with the dagger in hand, Fion approached her, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. "You found it," he said, reaching for the dagger. Áine stepped back, her grip tightening. "It was in a hidden alcove, surrounded by corrupted runes. If this wasn't you, then someone is trying to frame you." Fion's face hardened. "And you think I could betray the grove so easily?" "I don't know what to think," Áine replied, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "But until I do, I can't ignore the possibility that you're involved." The elder druid's jaw clenched, and for a moment, Áine thought he might lash out. Instead, he turned and walked away, his shoulders heavy with tension. That night, Áine sat beneath the great oak, her mind a whirl of doubt and fear. Éochaid lay beside her, his breathing steady and reassuring. As she drifted into a restless sleep, a vision came to her. The Morrigan appeared, her form shrouded in shadow, but her voice sharp and clear. "You walk a dangerous path, child of the grove," the goddess said. "The answers you seek will not come easily. Trust in your bond with the land, and remember, even the purest light casts a shadow." Áine woke with a start, her heart racing. The Morrigan's words were cryptic as always, but they gave her a glimmer of hope. The truth was out there, hidden among the whispers of the grove. "I'll find it," she vowed, stroking Éochaid's fur. "No matter what it takes." The stag snorted softly, his silver antlers catching the moonlight as if to echo her resolve. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. The sacred grove was bathed in an eerie light as Áine rose from her restless sleep. The Morrigan's cryptic words echoed in her mind. The goddess's warning had left her more determined than ever to uncover the truth behind the corruption threatening the grove. Éochaid stood vigilant nearby, his antlers gleaming faintly in the moonlight. Áine placed a hand on his fur, drawing strength from his calm presence. "It's time," she whispered. Let's end this. With the dagger she had found in the hidden alcove secured at her side, Áine set out to confront the forces working against the grove. The great oak had revealed visions of a hidden glade deep in the forest, a place where the betrayal had taken root. The journey to the glade was fraught with unease. The deeper Áine and Éochaid ventured, the more the forest seemed to rebel against their presence. Trees creaked ominously, their branches clawing at the air, and the ground beneath their feet felt brittle, as though it might give way at any moment. Éochaid halted suddenly, his ears swiveling toward the underbrush. Áine followed his gaze, her heart pounding as she caught sight of movement, a shadow darting between the trees. "Who's there?" she called out, her staff glowing faintly as she prepared to defend herself. The figure stepped into the faint light, filtering through the canopy. It was Fionn. "Áine," he said, his tone urgent. "You shouldn't be here alone. The corruption runs deeper than we thought." She tightened her grip on her staff. "I found your dagger in the hidden alcove, surrounded by corrupted symbols. What aren't you telling me?" Fionn's face twisted with a mix of frustration and sorrow. "I have no part in this treachery, Áine, but I fear I know who does." "Who?" she demanded. Before Fionn could answer, the ground beneath them trembled, and a low growl reverberated through the glade. The shadows coalesced into a massive form, a corrupted beast, its body a grotesque fusion of roots and sinew, with glowing red eyes that burned with malice. "Get behind me!" Fionn shouted, raising his staff. The corrupted beast lunged, its claws tearing through the air with unnatural speed. Áine and Fionn worked in unison, their combined magic forming a shimmering barrier that deflected the creature's first strike. Éochaid charged forward, his silver antlers gleaming as they struck the beast's side, forcing it to stagger. "It's drawing power from the glade," Fionn shouted. "We need to sever its connection." Áine nodded, her mind racing. She focused on the symbols carved into the surrounding trees, runes similar to those she had found in the alcove. With a whispered incantation, she directed her magic toward them, unraveling their dark energy. The beast howled in fury as the runes dimmed, its movements growing more erratic. Fionn seized the opportunity, hurling a bolt of pure energy that struck the creature's chest, sending it crashing to the ground. But before they could celebrate their victory, a slow clap echoed through the glade. Áine turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows. Lysara, a druid Áine had trained with since her earliest days in the grove, stepped into the light. Her expression was cold, and her eyes gleamed with an unnatural golden hue. "Lysara?" Áine's voice wavered. "Why?" "Because the grove has grown stagnant," Lysara replied, her tone dripping with disdain. "The balance we've spent centuries preserving is nothing but a shackle. The Morrigan's silence was a blessing, a chance to remake this world." "You desecrated her shrine," Áine said, anger rising in her chest. "You endangered us all." Lysara laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "You're blind, Áine. The grove's power is wasted on meaningless rituals. With the Morrigan silenced, I can shape the balance as I see fit." Fionn stepped forward, his staff glowing. "You've betrayed everything we stand for, Lysara. This ends now." Does it? Lysara raised her hand, and dark energy rippled through the glade. The beast rose once more, its eyes burning brighter as it turned its fury toward Áine and Fionn. The battle resumed with renewed intensity. The corrupted beast, now empowered by Lysara's magic, moved with terrifying speed. Eochaid charged fearlessly, his antlers glowing as he struck the creature again and again, buying Áine precious time. Áine focused her energy on Lysara, summoning the power of the grove to counter the dark magic emanating from her former ally. Their spells clashed in bursts of light and shadow, the air crackling with energy. "You're strong, Áine," Lysara said, her voice strained. "But you lack the vision to see what this power could become." "I see enough," Áine shot back. "And I see what it's doing to you." With a final surge of magic, Áine shattered Lysara's defenses. The dark energy around her flickered and dissipated, and the beast let out a deafening roar as it crumbled into ash. But victory came at a cost. Eochaid lay motionless on the ground, his silver antlers dimmed. Áine fell to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she placed them on his fur. "No," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Not you." The great oak's voice filled her mind, gentle but firm. "Sacrifices must be made to restore the balance." With Lysara subdued and the corruption cleansed, Áine returned to the sacred grove, carrying the weight of loss and responsibility. The Morrigan's shrine, once silent, now hummed with faint energy, a sign that the goddess's voice might one day return. Fionn approached her as she knelt beneath the great oak. "The grove owes you a great debt," he said softly, "but I know the cost was high." Áine looked up, her eyes red but determined. "The grove endures because of Eochaid. I'll honor his sacrifice by ensuring this never happens again." As the first light of dawn filtered through the trees, Áine rose, her staff glowing faintly in her hand. The grove was safe, for now, but she knew her journey was far from over. The Morrigan's warning still echoed in her heart, and the balance she had fought to protect remained fragile. As the tale of Áine draws to a close, let his journey remind us of the sacred connection between humanity and nature, and the delicate balance that binds the world together. Remember, my fellow adventurers, that even in the shadow of betrayal and the weight of sacrifice, the bonds of courage and harmony can restore what is broken. Thank you for joining me tonight. Until next time, may your dreams be filled with the whispers of ancient groves, the glow of sacred rituals, and the promise of new myths waiting to be uncovered. Good night.